Hello, everybody.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel, and it's time to pick another topic.
And the topic goes: do you recommend staying with family or friends when moving to Canada? The real deal.
So, in my opinion, coming to Canada as a student or working or migrating to work, but coming to Canada mostly for the first time, more than likely you um you don't really know anywhere. It's a new country, it's a new experience, and you might find yourself in a position where you're lost to what's going on. And having family and friends will be a great asset for the fact that they can show you around, they can give you advice on certain things. Of course, shelter. Whether the setup is that you pay a certain amount of money or whatever the setup may be, it is beneficial to some extent. But I believe that it's always a good thing to find your own place, only because there's some situations where I've heard a lot of horror stories where people are being mistreated. They're being feared. The family treat them like strangers. Um, well, I will have to go back a little bit and say there's some cases where family members do treat the other person wonderful. They want them to succeed. They recognize it's a new country. They recognize that is a journey, so to speak, that they're now starting out on. And anybody that have moved to Canada can tell you that the first couple of years in Canada could be very emotional, could be very um you know what was the word I would look, could be very challenging.
Challenging.
you
Yeah.
know Somebody like my sister over here loves to cry, and people get very emotional. They show the emotions in different ways, and so it's a bit of a challenge. So just having that person there that can guide you, can lead you, can show you around. Some people make friends quickly. Stuff like that will help. However, I want to be as real as possible, and I will have to say that, like I mentioned before, there's some cases where people move. Remember, they always say this thing: "Come see me, come live with me." It's two different things. Some people will invite you to Canada, you know, as a visitor, and because they know you're staying at them for 2 or 3 weeks, they'll treat you with the best care. They'll be nice, be friendly, whatever, name it, and you tell yourself, "Oh well, this was awesome," But then afterwards, when you move down as a student or as a worker, um, and you come to their house, again, they may treat you for the first 2 to 3 weeks, maybe the first couple of months with respect, or be nice or whatever. But there's way too many times where people, after that time limit has gone, and they expect you to get up and work. I mean, yes, you should get up and work. You should find something to contribute to the household. But then attitudes change. You wonder if this is the same person that you literally um was connected with, whether it's family or friend or whatever. What you're looking at the person like, is this the same person? Because they're treating you like a stranger or worse than a stranger. You know what I mean? And then they they push you to buy things where you might not be able to afford it. They expect you to pay bills or give them money, and you might not be, in a situation where you're having consistent funds coming in as yet. You're now trying to settle. You're now trying to get your foot in, and then what comes with that is mistreatment. They start to treat you horrible. They start to treat you bad. In my experience, when I first was moving to Canada as a student, I remember I had a friend that I had met at church, and I stayed at him for a little bit, me and my mother, because my mother helped came with me to kind of assist me in transitioning into moving and getting ready for school, preparing for school, whatever. Now let me just say, immigration they expect that you have somewhere to stay when you're a student. That's one of the things that is
Mandatory.
mandatory. Guys, let me just say right now,
Okay.
I'm dealing with a cold issue right now, so my nose is blocked up and like I feel congested. So that's why I might be late. Stopping momentarily. But yeah, so let me get back to the point.
You were saying that it is mandatory to have a place to stay for immigration.
Right. So, so you should have a place for immigration. This is something that you set up beforehand. You know, you talk to people, they tell you yes, they write a letter, whatever. But then there's some situations where when you get here, it doesn't work out. And what do you do when it doesn't work out? You have to find an alternative, right? Some cases, like I said, the person allows you to come in or whatever, and then unfortunately they mistreat you. So in my case, I stayed at a friend for a couple of weeks, and my situation, I was supposed to find a place to stay. So I think I mentioned him that I would stay with him for um about 4 weeks, I think, because I came in December, and during that time period I would have been looking for a room to go at, because back then rooms were cheap, um, are affordable. And as a student, you don't. Me personally, I wouldn't have gone directly for an apartment or anything. You look for the best option, which at that point was a room. So I was looking and stuff like that, but unfortunately, his mother started to get really uncomfortable, I guess, with me and my mother staying there. His dad and his brother was okay with it, but his mom kind of, started to get a little weird. And so I remember one day she went out into the freezing cold just to try to look for something for us. She didn't even tell us that's what she was doing. We found out afterwards that that was what she was doing. And so when you're at somebody's place and you start to feel unwelcome, or you start to feel really weird, or like they want you out, you're gonna like, you're gonna make an extra effort to try to find somewhere. And that's how I really got into my room. It wasn't a case where I was mistreated or anything like that, but I definitely quickly afterwards got a room. And that's my story. But I've heard of way too many horror stories where people come from their country, they come at family, they come at friends, especially our Caribbean people and stuff like that, and they're treated horribly after a while, and then they have to go out there, they have to look for a room, they have to look for a situation. Sometimes, unfortunately, everybody don't get a room. That's how you end up with people um, in shelters and stuff like that, But for me, I think when moving to a country, you have to be realistic about the situation. And I think that trying to fight, especially once you start working and saving up, right? Because I don't believe people will put you out right away, but there's some people that would. You don't know people characteristics. People can change.
Right.
Like you will wonder if it's the same person, you know. So they might not necessarily put you out right away, but they might start to treat you so bad. So my recommendation would be to, like, as soon as you start working, try to save up. That's for people that are working. For students now, it is a bit difficult because I know there is only a certain amount of hours that you can work, because you're really there to go to school. But in a situation where something like that happens, I would say still try to find a room. They're definitely more pricey now than when I first came, but you have to do what you have to do. So I don't know if my sister have anything to say on that topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Even though you might go to family members and stuff like that, another option of living like freely would be like, if you have the funds, you can go to the dorms at the college that you have been um, accepted by. That's correct English, right?
Accepting.
hmm So that's somewhere you can go to. But as my sister said, sometimes there's so much horror stories. To me, sometimes family could be really bad, friends could be worse, and vice versa. So I think like what Shanita said, the best thing to do is, yes, if you feel like you have a family member that you can trust or whatever, and you like, and I find when you go over to very very close family members, like how me and my sister are sisters, like that,
Close.
are close, like I think that would be like a better ordeal versus somebody that might be like an aunt or uncle or whatever. It's all based on your relationship with the person. But I think that the best thing to do is when you move up here, especially to family members or friends, your goal is to move out and have your own. It's different, yes, for the students, but especially for those persons who coming out here to work. You're working already, you got money, save your money, and try to find an apartment or room, whatever will make you comfortable. That's my addition.
If you have a good relationship with your family member, you know it's a genuine situation where um, the person isn't going to turn on you if you have, if you start to disagree or something like that, you know that the person isn't going to turn on you or whatever. I feel like, yes, you could stay. You know you have to contribute. You know you'll have to pay bills. You cannot, because this could go vice versa actually.
Yeah.
I have to be fair. There's some people who come up from wherever they live. They seem to think that their family member also is our friend, but mostly this is the case in family members, right? They seem to think that the person is, living large and in charge, and they come up, they get lazy, they don't really want to work, they get comfortable. And this also goes for relationships as well. Because like, when you're moving in with somebody, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you want to be pulling your weight. It's not fair for one person to be pulling the weight. So when you say one, you have to say two. You have to contribute. You have think of it as if you were living on your own. You have to do everything. So you have to share the chores. You have to share the finances. You have to speak, communicate, and talk about what works and what doesn't work. You know, just to avoid conflict. Conflict comes up from time to time regardless, but just to minimize the conflict, because you want to be in a comfortable, everybody want to live in a comfortable situation. Anybody that lives in Canada today know that
Right.
the rental prices, the cost of living is very expensive, whether you're renting, whether you own.
Mhm.
So it's just very, very like challenging when it comes to renting, or when it comes to mortgage, or trying to own a house, right? So you kind of pull your weight, because you can't expect that the person is going to take care of you. That's a negative,
Yeah.
right? But on the other hand, there are some family members that wait until you come. They'll even encourage you to come. I've heard stories from people that I know that told me that people encourage them to come up. You understand? Say, hey, you should come to Canada, blah, 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 right? And then when they get there, they do a complete 360. They treat them with disrespect. They treat them with, like, because they know they're in a position where they can't really help themselves.
Yeah, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, they're vulnerable, and then they like to say, "Oh, we'll put you out when you're gonna go." I'll say, "Cool," and you'll be thinking about all these things too. And this is another reason why people experience depression. There's another reason why people experience anxiety and get sick and all these things, because it's like you're moving to a whole new world, and then you have to deal with a lot of negative energy as well, right? So, that's why, from hearing these situations and stuff like that, I will say, don't get comfortable.
I think that's the key.
Yeah,
Mhm.
start off. The goal should always be to try to get something for yourself. It's always good to help out people,
Right.
because when you need help, you want people to be there for you too.
Mhm.
But at the same time, put it in your mind that this is not mine. For me personally, I could never claim something that's not mine. I always feel kind of uncomfortable. I always say, well, it isn't mine, so I kind of, gotta until I get to that point where it is mine. But, um, But yeah, put it in your mind that this is not my end journey. I remember when I was at my room, I was there for about a year because I was there during the entire time when I was in college. And I kept telling myself, like, this is not my end journey, you know? So I knew that I wanted to leave as soon as school was finished because that was my end journey. So I would my mother wanted to like bring certain things for me to get comfortable, like a bed, um, a bedroom set and different things like that. And I told my mother, no, that's just me though. You can do what you want, but for me, I was like, no, because in my mind, I didn't want to be comfortable. I didn't want to feel like this is it, and then get comfortable in that situation. I knew that at the end, I needed to go to something better, right? And at that time we didn't have transportation, so I didn't want to have to have all this stuff, and then when it was time to go I had to move a whole heap of stuff either, and all of that stuff I thought about. So that's why for me I didn't really want all the extra furniture and all that extra stuff to go along with it. But yeah, that's my opinion, that I feel like when you're at somebody's house, just tell yourself, eventually I want to move on my own, because even when things start out pretty good, it can easily, quickly turn
Pretty bad.
exactly. So that's my opinion on that topic. And then Tony said something about staying at the dorms, and I'll be honest, staying at dorms can be very expensive. In my time, it was pretty expensive, and now I can't imagine how expensive it would be, right? Because you're at the school, you have to pay. I've never stayed at dorm, so I can't really speak on it. But I can imagine that it's very, very expensive. So for me, I feel like coming and staying at somebody at first would be fine, but just to watch your back, or cover yourself, eventually start to look for something. I would imagine as a student, if you're staying at a family member or a friend, they would know the timing that your school is, so they would know the what is the word? They would know like what the requirements are, what your schooling length is like, how long it is. And let's say you're staying for school for a year or 2 years, then they would know if you're going back to your country, or they would know if you're staying and applying for a work permit afterwards or whatever. And then they would know, like, okay, so I'll be helping you out or whatever. You also would know that, so you would know what the process is, because as a student, like I said, it would be a lot harder to fund yourself, right? So you could try to stick in the situation as a student, I would say, because the reality is it is harder to fund yourself as a student, given the fact that you have a shorter amount of hours to work and so on.
Because it's 20 hours.
Right. But so I would try my best to stick in the situation, because it's not a lot of options, you know what I mean? But then if you have to go look, you have to go look, right? But as a worker now, or once you're finished school and you go into the process of a post-secondary, a postgraduate work permit, then you also have the option there where you're working, and then you can also save now and go into that process of trying to get your own place, right? So that's just my opinion on that question. You have anything else to say on that question?
I don't really have much to say, because I'm living in a good
So why don't you talk about your situation where...
Well, the situation I'm in right now, I live with my older sister. Um, yes, in the beginning, it was difficult because it was a full transition from working back home to going back to school, and then not working. So I think all of that played into my cryingness or my sadness at the time. But as she would have said, and as she said, it goes for relationship, but it also goes for sisterhood. We have to learn to communicate with one another. The good thing is, we lived together for so many years when we were back home. So it's basically the same. Plus, she has her likes and I have my likes and the dislikes mutual. But the good thing is, my sister and I had a good relationship from the time we were little. And even when we got older, we also had a good relationship. So even though there are things that I might do that she didn't like, or if things that she do that I didn't like, at least we know how to communicate. And the good thing is, even if there's a disagreement, we make sure that we do not go to bed angry. And I think sometimes there's some of the issues too with people and their families. They go to bed angry, they're not speaking to one another, and then it gets like a very ugly situation. Because one little thing goes into a big thing, and then boom, everybody start talking, and then everybody want to leave and do their own thing. So, but I was blessed to have a good situation with living with a family member, and I know that my sister is very happy that I'm with her.
Yeah, so like I said before, in some cases there are people like my sister who have that good situation, but then there are a lot of cases where they don't. So I just wanted us to have like a realistic view of
From
both
both sides,
sides,
yeah.
because it doesn't always work like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then it's like, what do you do when you get into that situation, right? So yeah, that's what I have to say on that topic. I hope um, the information would have, give people ideas to think about, future plans if they're living with someone and it might not be working out or something like that. Or even if they might not have thought about the fact that they could start to look for somewhere, if they're in a messed up situation, or even if they're not, they just want their independence. And yeah, so
Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye bye.